ขอต้อนรับเข้าสู่ Data ศาสตร์ Podcast เจาะลึกทุกศาสตร์ของ Data ทุกโอกาสและความเป็นไปได้ที่ Data ทำให้คุณได้ โดย True Analytics จาก True Digital Group สวัสดีค่ะขอต้อนรับเข้าสู่ Data ศาสตร์ Podcast ซีรีส์ใหม่ล่าสุดจาก True Digital ที่จะพาคุณผู้ฟังไปเจาะลึกทุกศาสตร์ของ Data โดยทีม True Analytics จาก True Digital Group นะคะที่จะมาแชร์ทุกโอกาสทุกความเป็นไปได้ที่ Data เท่านั้นที่ทำให้คุณได้ค่ะดิฉันเพ็ญศศิธรจำปาพันธ์หรือนุ่นนะคะจาก True Digital Group รับหน้าที่เป็นโฮสต์สำหรับการพูดคุยในแต่ละเอพิโซดต่อจากนี้ไปค่ะ EP แรกทั้งทีนะคะเราก็ได้รับเกียรติจากหัวเรือใหญ่ของ True Analytics คุณ Pedro Uria Recio ซึ่งเป็น Chief Analytics and AI Officer จาก True Digital Group นะคะมาร่วมพูดคุยกับเราซึ่งในครั้งนี้เราจะพูดคุยกันเป็นภาษาอังกฤษนะคะในหัวข้อ Building a Data Monetization Venture ค่ะ Hello, welcome to Data ศาสตร์ which means data science in English. This is the latest podcast series by True Analytics team from True Digital Group that will take you into every science of data. The True Analytics team from the True Digital Group will join us each episode and share every opportunity and all the possibilities that only data can give it to you. I am Pen Sasithorn Jampapan or Nun from External Communications team of True Digital Group. We will be the host of Data ศาสตร์ podcast.And of course, for the first EP, we invite Kun Pedro Uria Recio, Chief Analytics and AI Officer of True Digital Group, to share with us about building a data monetization venture. We will discuss everything that is to know about building a data monetization venture, for example, like the well-known successful cases, the success factors, and more to come in this episode. Thank you for joining us, Kun Pedro. สวัสดีค่ะ Kun Pedro.
Hello, Kunun. I'm very happy to be here.And hello also to all the Data Art podcast listeners.
Okay, and it is an honor to have you here for our first episode. And since you are the Chief Analytics and AI Officer of True Digital Group, right? What about we talk a little bit about True Analytics? Can you tell us about this business unit? When was it founded? What is all about True Analytics, please?
Well, so True Analytics is a business unit of True Digital. True Digital is the digital arm of True Corporation, the telecom operator in Thailand, right? So True Digital is a digital transformation enabler, but at the end of the day, it's a collection of multiple ventures that have been created in a corporate environment. We call them corporate ventures. One of the ventures is True ID.which is a video streaming business unit, a video streaming service in Thailand. We have an IoT business unit, we have cybersecurity, and we also have analytics. Analytics as data monetization, that's the business unit that I am running, right? So this business unit was created at the end of 2017, 2018. What we do is we build data-driven services, enterprise services, using data that comes from the telco.And we provide these services to the telco. There are a number of use cases that we are doing for True Corporation. We are also working with many companies that belong to our conglomerate, CP Group, and we are also working with external customers, right? So we use data and we try to extract benefit from the data, but at the same time, we are very careful about making sure that the data remains private because we have a huge responsibility, which is protecting the data of our customers, and that is something we take very seriously.
Yes. So like you said, analytics is all about data, right? Then what data does a telco have and what it can be used for both like inside the telecom industry and outside the telecom industry?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So a telecom company has a large amount of information, a very large amount of data. Probably telco is one of those industries that has most data elements that we get every day from all the subscribers, right? The first thing, well, we are a telecom company. So we have obviously all those call records, mean a social network, people that call each other.We certainly have data, access to the data, the browsing information. What are the websites that are visited by each person? What is happening inside those websites is encrypted because today's World Wide Web is using encrypted protocols, but we know the URLs that people are visiting. At the same time, there is location information. People, as they move, they are connecting to other antennas, and we can know the location where they are very, very granularly. In our case, we also have a video streaming company, so we have information about what kind of content is watched by people. Do you prefer action movies? Do you prefer series? Do you prefer, what is the kind of content you prefer? So a company, a telco in general, and True Corporation in particular, we have a lot of data, right?
Right.
And if we are able to leverage that data, we can enable a lot of use cases inside the telco as well as outside the telco, right? If we talk, for example, about internal use cases, I would say product recommendations. Also, in our case, film recommendations, movie recommendations, content recommendations, because we have True ID. But those recommendations are key. Dynamic pricing is fundamental, right? In a way that having a personalized price for every customer, right? And the other thing that, according to my experience, is very important in telco is deciding where you are going to put the next telecom tower. Now it's super relevant that we are migrating into 5G. So deciding what is going to be the next 5G station, that's a very important question. And we can use analytics. We can use all this data in order to make those decisions, right? And then we have a lot of external use cases in which a telco can collaborate with other companies in order to enable these use cases, but very importantly, while preserving the privacy of the data that we have.
When you talk about that, you kind of have a huge amount of data you have, right? It sounds to me like telco has a lot of my data. So I believe that you must have like data protection practice within the working process to somehow like you said, like act accordingly to the law, right? Or help to protect my data, right?
Yeah. In Thailand, we have the new data protection law, PDPA, Personal Data Protection Act. All large companies in Thailand are compliant with that, including us, of course. The data protection law is basically users have to approve what are the purposes for which their data is going to be used. So if a user wants to get advertising, he has to approve that he would like to get advertising, right? And that is something that we have implemented in all companies, right? When it comes to these external use cases, number one external use case is advertising, of course. I'll talk more about that later. Then we have credit scoring, which is collaborating with financial institutions in making it easier for people to get access to credit, right? And finally, there is a lot of work that we have done in customer intelligence, competitor intelligence, both for the telco as well as for external customers. That is something that is always important to have, right? So I would say these are the key use cases, both internally and externally.
All right. So what about we start with the first one, the advertising? You said that advertising was the most common use case among data monetization venture. Can you tell us more about it, please?
Yeah, advertising is one of the most common use cases when a company decides to monetize their data assets, right? That can be advertising about your own products, or it can be advertising for other parties, right? I was saying before that we have web history, we have location history, right? These two are very important. A company like us, like True, has 20 billion web events per day. That means that people go to 20 billion different URLs every single day. It's huge. It's a huge number. And we are just talking about a subset of Thailand, right? It's not the whole country, it's the customers. So the amount of data that is generated by a company like a telco is absolutely huge. It's gigantic. If we are able to process that data, organize that data, and create segments that can be used in advertising by using labels, that allows us to create a very good targeting or a very good segmentation. So something that a telecom operator can do with this data will be to create a number of labels. You can have labels that are about the interest that people might have on different products based on their web history. Are you interested in Japanese food? Are you interested in football or another kind of sport? That comes from the web history. A lot of information comes also from apps that are installed already in the phone and that you are using in the phone. Like, for example, are you a client of this bank? Are you a client of this food delivery company? So that is also something that you can create segments with. And obviously you have demographics and you have location information. Location information can provide a lot of information. Do you go to play yoga in the morning in a park? That can tell you about your lifestyle, right? So there is a lot of information with labels that indicate their interest, their behavior, their demographics, or the locations, right? And that is something that with that, you are able to create a very good advertising service. That is something that many companies are doing around the world, and it provides a very good service for internal and external enterprise clients, right? Now, when it comes to data protection, obviously, the database where we have all the clients and all the labels is a database that is totally anonymized. There are no identities. So somebody that goes to that database doesn't know the telephone number of the people, cannot have access to the names of the people. It's totally and absolutely anonymized because of data protection purposes. So it's only people that have said that they're interested in getting this kind of offers will get it, right? So this is a service that is very, very, very popular in Thailand and in other countries, and it works on different channels, SMS, mainstream channels like Facebook and Google. You can use this data to advertise on that, many different channels, but always in a way that protects the data of the customers and in a way that customers have a say about whether they want to subscribe or unsubscribe to this kind of services.
Right, that sounds great. So what about the next one? Another example of external use cases, right? It's credit scoring, right?
Credit scoring is another of the well-proven use cases, and it's something that has a social, at the end of the day, has a social mission, right? So in many countries in Asia, not the whole population has access to financing. There is a lot of people that don't have bank accounts yet.
Right.
But little by little, these people are coming sometimes to banks or digital banks, digital lenders. They want to lend money to buy a television, to buy a car, to buy a motorcycle, to buy something. But because they don't have a credit history, it's very difficult for that financial institution to evaluate the credit worthiness of this person. Mm-hmm. They don't have a history. So it's very difficult for the bank to say, I'm going to lend or I'm not going to lend. So what happens is that everybody in Asia, in Thailand in particular, and everybody's paying mobile phone bills in prepaid or in postpaid. Now, by looking at that payment behavior, the regularity, the amount, how long the person has been paying, by looking at these kind of things, it's possible to assess whether a person would pay back a small loan. And that assessment is basically providing a number. That number is a credit score. When the number is high, it's a number from 0 to 1. When the number is close to 1 to 100%, that means that the person is very likely to return the loan. When the number is close to 0, that means the person is not likely to return the loan and should not get it, right? So this is something that I believe this has a social mission as well, because it's opening access to finance to a lot of people that otherwise wouldn't have that access, right? Now, when it comes to the protection, to data protection here, so a person goes to a bank. The bank says, I don't have information about you, but if you still want this loan, you can give me your telephone number. You will have to sign that you are approving that the telephone number is going to provide us a score. And if you approve that, we will look at that score, and depending on the score, we might be able to give you the loan. So people require to give consent.
Right.
In order to create these scores and to share the scores with a bank. So that's the way it works. And it's a huge opportunity because, as I said, it opens the world of lending to a whole new population that otherwise wouldn't have the chance.
Okay, so this is all about the credit scoring, right? Okay, so the final case that you mentioned earlier again, the customer intelligence. Could you explain what are the key problem statements telco data can solve for this?
So customer intelligence, at the end of the day, is understanding your customers, right? What is the segmentation of your customers? What are the different kinds of interests they have? But not only that, it's also important to understand that segmentation, those interests, those behaviors, not only in your own customers, but in the customers of your competitors. Now, if you think about companies that have an online presence,
Right.
that will be companies that have a website or companies that have an app, right?
Mm-hmm.
For these kind of companies, understanding their own clients will be relatively straightforward because the company knows very well what those clients are doing, right? What kind of transactions, what kind of things they buy, etc. But it's much more difficult for them to understand what the clients of their competitors are doing. However, the telco can see both of them. So the telco can identify who is a user of this app, who is a user of this other competing app, and what are the interests. What is imagine you have an app about insurance. Among your customers, you will be able to understand what is the level of interest of my customers on different things like cars, what is the lifestyle of those customers, where do they live, etc. But most importantly, as I was saying before, you are also able to understand the same kind of parameters from your competitors, and that is something revolutionary, because many businesses don't know that, right? So this is something that the data can bring to that. We can think about for clients that maybe they don't have an online presence, but they have a physical presence as well. Imagine supermarkets. Because of the location, the telco will know how many people go to a certain supermarket, how many people go to competitors of that supermarket. It will be relatively easy for a telco to understand the segmentation of people that go to supermarket A versus people that go to supermarket B, right? And this information is very, very valuable. It's always given in a way that is anonymized. So this is providing these insights in an aggregated level can really unlock many opportunities for clients, right? Now, there are different kinds of competitor intelligence here, right? So I would say, or different kinds of intelligence solutions. There are some solutions that are about locations. Based on the data that we have, what are the best locations to open a store for cosmetics? Or what is the best place to open a new restaurant? What is the best place to put a new telecom tower? Best place to put a new ATM? That is all these kind of location recommendation problems can be solved with telco data because you know very well the segmentation of people in each location, right? We can also think about competitor intelligence. This is what I was saying before. And then another example here that I find is fascinating, which is out-of-home advertising, right?
You mean like the out-of-home billboard, or like the big panel that when I drive along the street that I can see, right? Is that you mean?
This is absolutely that, right?
Yeah. For me, like when you said that it's out-of-home billboard, right? Imagine that when I drive along the road or the street, I'm not sure how associate with the data. Because for me, I feel like data and advertising should be like in online platform only. I don't know how it works with the
this is what most people think, right? And that's why I say it's really fascinating, because a lot of people think like you are thinking like out-of-home advertising is kind of dead, right? Because now everything is digital, right? So, but the reality is that it's not dead. When you go to Sukhumvit, when you go to Prompong, Asok, you see a lot of huge billboards, right?
Right.
With playing video advertising, right? Something that a telco can enable is measuring the footfall of how many people have been exposed to an out-of-home advertisement because of the location, right? Because of the location. So you could say that, for example, billboard A in this particular location should be more expensive than billboard B because the number of people that are passing through billboard A is much higher. So that can help to count how many people have watched the advertisement or could have watched the advertisement. And that can serve also to price the billboard, right? So being able to provide data to this business will be something, I would say, fascinating, right?
Right.
So that's another example that I really like. How you can transform industries, or how you can really change the business model of an industry just by adding data to it.
Okay, so you share a lot about common use cases, right? Advertising, credit scoring, and customer intelligence. And I like the out-of-home advertising a lot, like you mentioned earlier. So I think these examples has been created in business unit or in a venture owned by True Digital Group, right? Can you tell us more about a corporate venture? What are the success factors of a corporate venture?
That's a very good question. So True Digital is a collection of corporate ventures,
Right.
as I was saying before, right? So as a whole, we are the digital transformation enabler, but one by one, each one of those is a corporate startup. It's a startup or a new business unit that has been created inside a company. It's not a startup that was created in a garage. It's a startup that has been created inside a company, but we are trying to build it following the principles that normal entrepreneurs in garage follow in order to increase the probability of success, in order to have the right culture, right? So corporate startups are a very special kind of startup. True Analytics is one of them. And all the other services of True Digital are these kind of corporate startups. I think in True and also in my previous work experiences, there are a few things that I have learned about how to make sure that, or how to increase the chances of making a corporate startup successful, right? And at the end of the day, it is about leveraging the assets that your mother company is bringing while keeping that independence a smaller startup will have, and that speed and that culture. So I can think about a few success factors, right? The first one is, in my view, is having a very clear investable objective. That means the venture has an objective of creating value on its own. The venture does not have an objective of creating synergies for the mother company, maybe improving the loyalty of the mother company, or maybe selling something additional to the mother company, or maybe solving a problem that the mother company has. No, that all those things are fine, but corporate startups need to have an objective that creates value for themselves, right? An objective that makes the startup profitable on its own. The mother company will help. Maybe the mother company is a client of the startup, but the startup needs to have other clients so that it is sustainable. The startup has an investable objective. It's an objective of being profitable, creating value on its own, and that means that external investors could come to the startup and invest in the startup. Actually, having external investors is a very good sign for a corporate startup. It means that the corporate startup has gone through the discipline of forcing itself to create value for clients. So I think it's very important. That will be the first success point. You have an investable objective,
right,
and potentially you have external investors. The second thing is you need to have access to the assets or to the resources of the mother company. Obviously, the mother company is here to help creating the startup to make it more successful. The contrary is not true. The startup is not here to help the mother company. Maybe in the future, the startup could replace the mother company, but in the short run, it's the other way around. The mother company has to help the startup. One way is the startup, the mother company could have data that the startup could license and use, and this is what we are doing here in True Analytics. Maybe the mother company has clients that could be introduced to the startup. Maybe the mother company could be one of those clients, as I was saying before. Maybe also the mother company has advertising channels, sales channels, sales teams that are going to help creating an opportunity for the startup, right? So this is very important to understand, in my view, is like the startup needs to leverage the resources of the mother company. In the short run, the startup is not to create value for the mother company. It has to create value on its own. And the final point is you need to manage to have independence from the mother company, because you can leverage those resources. But if you leverage too much, if you start leveraging support functions, you might start incorporating part of the corporate culture that you don't want to have because you want to be faster, you want to be more agile, you want to be a startup, right? So if you start relying on support functions from the corporate, I mean, the most important support functions are finance and human resources, that might transform the culture of your startup in ways that you wouldn't want, that might reduce the speed to react to market needs in ways that you wouldn't want. And the other problem that you might have when working in a corporate startup is growing too fast. They have more resources because they have financing from the corporate, but you don't want to grow too fast. That's going to destroy your culture. You're going to become another corporate too fast. I think these four are probably the things that I have learned here and in other places before my time here. So having an objective goal that other investors can invest in, leveraging resources of the company, keeping your independence at the same time, and not growing too fast.
Okay. So I think it's quite interesting because as I know that you handle data analytics in a startup before you coming here, right? So I understand that there must be like a different job to run between data analytics in both venture and corporate. Like I want to learn more about the differences between data analytics in venture and data analytics in corporate, how it differs between the two units.
Yeah, I have been in a corporate startup like here. I have been in corporate in a normal corporation. It is actually very different. The first difference I would say is that in an analytics team, in a corporate, a bank, a telco, an insurance company, a retailer, typically you have a very short-term framework. You are thinking about projects that you have to deliver very fast. In the best case, there will be projects that you might deliver in 1 or 2 months. In the worst case, you may be very much reacting ad hoc. In a data monetization venture where the product is the data itself,
Right.
You need to take a much mid to longer term approach. So you cannot be reacting to short-term needs. You are actually creating a product. And that is probably the second difference. You are in a data monetization startup, you are product oriented. You have to create a data product. The data product can be a number of dashboards, that can be even the database itself can be a product. In a corporation, you are not thinking of products in a data analytics teams. You are thinking of projects. As I was saying before, maybe in the worst case, you are very much reacting ad hoc and trying to put fires here and there, particularly when the company is under pressure, right? So the second point is product orientation for startups, a project orientation for teams that are more corporate. The other difference is when you are in a startup, you have to really invest in your platform. Your platform is your product. Your platform is your differentiator. On the flip side, corporates very often neglect investing on the platform. And obviously, every few years, there is a technology cycle, and they have to migrate from maybe a data warehouse into the next technology that was Hadoop, or maybe from Hadoop into cloud. But it's not planned. It's more reactive. A corporate analytics team is very much working on OpEx, but a data monetization startup is very much working on CapEx because you invest that CapEx in the platform. And now, the last point I would like to mention is that the diversity of roles that you have in a corporate startup that is handling data analytics is also much bigger than what you will have in a corporation. In a corporation where you have data scientists, data engineers, you might have data analysts, you might have some people that are bridging the gap between the technical teams and the business teams. We call them analytics translators. They are also called analytics consultants. But in a corporate venture that works on data, you have many more. You have all these ones, but you also have product specialists because you are creating a product. You also have a lot of data engineers, much more data engineers that you will have because you are creating a platform. And then you probably also need to have a B2B sales team. So the complexity of roles is much bigger, but it's also much more fun to be in a corporate venture like where we are here, or any other ventures in True Digital than being in a stable business, right?
Right. So I think you have many experience both in venture and both in corporate, right? What are you most like in venture and what are you most like in corporate? Can you tell us more?
I mean, in a venture, what I like most is the potential of growth that you will have, right?
Right.
You don't know what is going to happen on a daily basis, but in general, you can expect that growth coming. Not always, some ventures fail, right? But you can expect you are in areas that are expected to grow. When you're in a corporate, things are much more stable. Roles, you have more security, you have more funding, you have more resources. There are advantages of being in corporate as well, right? I would say these are the the most important differences.
Right.
And the other difference is the culture. I mean, typically, I will say in more startup environments, teams are people, say maybe younger, more motivated, more willing to learn, and that matters quite a lot as well.
Yeah, I think they have pros and cons between the two, right? Okay, so, and the other thing is that you wrote a lot of articles on online platform like Forbes or Mediums. Our topic today is building a data monetization venture. And you mentioned in one of your articles on Forbes that the future of data monetization is the data economy. What do you mean by that?
Well, the data economy is a digital ecosystem that is already happening, but is becoming more and more present in the world as we talk. The data economy is a global digital ecosystem that will allow people or companies to share data with each other, obviously in ways that preserve privacy and are compliant with regulations, in ways that are anonymized, in ways that are respectful of data privacy. And they are able to get paid for that sharing, right? They are able to build cases. If I think, for example, one industry is insurance. Even today, millions of people are sharing information from their wearable devices, like Fitbit or smartwatch. They are sharing this information with insurance companies. And insurance companies are having an idea about your lifestyle from that smartwatch, and they provide you a discount on your insurance premium, on your life insurance premium, health insurance premium. There are also many companies already where you have your own car and you can voluntarily share the video feed of a camera that is showing the front of your car. And there are insurance companies that provide you a discount because they are getting access to this data. If there is an accident, that facilitates how to claim the insurance. It also facilitates how to avoid these kind of accidents, etc. Right? So there are many use cases that are already happening. What I'm saying is that this is going to become more mainstream in the future because there are a few technologies that are going to enable to do this with a very clear protection by default, data protection, right? So obviously at this moment you can do this in ways compliant with data protection regulations, but there are two technologies that are going to make it even more easy with data protection, and one of them is Web3. And the other one is neural algorithms that preserve privacy. I'm going to talk very briefly about them. Web3 is the new generation of web that is using blockchain technology. Everybody's talking about crypto these days. One of the amazing things about the blockchain is that by using smart contracts, you can monitor data sharing transactions and you can define what is the purpose of each one of those transactions. If there are transactions that are not authorized, you can identify them and stop them. And the second thing is privacy-preserving algorithms that enable people to collaborate, to make joint decisions using data from each other, but keeping that data encrypted while making the decision. So collectively, they can make a joint decision. That can be the credit score that we were talking about, a credit score for a particular client. They calculate the score for a particular client that is going to say this client should get the loan, this other client should not get the loan. But the algorithm has encryption and has data decomposition that prevent the two parties from knowing what data about that client the other party has.
Right.
Collectively, they know the decision. The decision is a yes or a no, but they don't know what the other party, either the telco or the bank, was providing to that formula, right? And I think this is very, very important because this means that you can make joint data-driven decisions while not providing the data to the other party. It sounds magic, but I find this fascinating. There are new algorithms that startups are developing, and we are working with those startups testing these technologies. I find the data economy is something that is going to come fast. Over the next 5 to 10 years. Is actually already here in many use cases. One of the key things to pay attention is making sure that the new AI-driven applications that will be created in the future are not manipulating people or nudging people into decisions that are not in the best interest. I think this is something very important. And here we have to think about data ethics, which ways an AI algorithm should nudge or should influence somebody, in which ways that shouldn't be done, And as we are, as a society, right, we are starting to learn more and more about working with AI algorithms, understanding of how our ethics should evolve in order to work effectively with artificial intelligence, right? So I think this is about the future. I think the future of data is fascinating. There are so many things to do, but there are also some things we have to pay attention to, like data protection and making sure that AI is making decisions in the best interest of people.
Right. That sounds very great for today. All right. So we have known a lot about data monetization venture. And you mentioned examples, use cases like advertising, credit scoring, the success factor in creating a corporate venture, and all about building a data monetization venture. I very appreciate you making time to share the data side with us today. So thank you very much, ค่ะ คุณ Pedro. Thank you very much for today, ค่ะ
Thank you very much. It has been amazing to talk to you, Kunun. Thank you very much for having me here today, and I hope to see you next time.
Yeah, I hope to see you next time too. Thank you very much ค่ะ ขอบคุณสำหรับการติดตามรับฟัง Data ศาสตร์ Podcast ซีรีส์ใหม่ล่าสุดจาก True Digital นะคะที่จะพาคุณผู้ฟังไปเจาะลึกทุกศาสตร์ของ Data โดยทีม True Analytics จาก True Digital Group ค่ะในครั้งหน้านะคะเราจะมาพูดคุยกันในหัวข้อ Building Data Products The New Approach for Data Analytics and AI ติดตาม Podcast Data ศาสตร์รายการใหม่นี้ได้บน YouTube และ Blogdit ของ True Digital Group รวมถึงช่องทางใหม่อย่าง Spotify เพียงค้นหาคำว่า Data ศาสตร์Thank you for listening to Data Sat Podcast. This podcast has been brought to you by True Analytics team from True Digital Group. Coming up on next week episodes of Building Data Products, the new approach for data analytics and AI. Follow us Data Sat Podcast on True Digital Group's YouTube and Blogdit, as well as our latest channel on Spotify by searching Data Sat. See you in next episode. วันนี้ลาไปก่อน สวัสดีค่ะขอบคุณสำหรับการติดตาม Data ศาสตร์ Podcast โดย True Analytics จาก True Digital Group และพบกันใหม่ในครั้งหน้า Data ศาสตร์